You ever been told that you need to make an adjustment in your computer's BIOS, but you have no idea what that is? Or maybe you've tried to get into your computer's BIOS and your machine it just keeps booting straight into Windows before you can really do anything. Or maybe somebody once told you, hey, just press F2 at startup, and you have no idea what that means. Well, if any of that sounds familiar, you are in exactly the right place. Because today we are going to be demystifying BIOS. Now, BIOS is your computer's basic input-output system, and we're going to be talking about what it is, why you'd ever need to get in there, some common BIOS settings that, sometimes they need to be adjusted, and we'll be talking about 2 reliable ways to access your BIOS, including one that works even when your PC boots too fast to press anything at startup. So stay with me, this is actually going to be a lot easier than it sounds. So what really is BIOS then, and why would you ever need to go into it? Well, the best way to think of BIOS is to look at it as being kind of like your computer's backstage manager. When you first turn your PC on, before Windows or Linux even starts loading, BIOS wakes up your hardware, it checks that everything is working properly, and then it hands control over to your operating system. Now, most of the time, you never need to go near it. Many users don't even know it's there, to be honest. But there are 3 common situations where you do. The first is when you want to change the boot order of your computer. Now, this happens when you want to boot from a USB drive, for example, to install Linux or a diagnostic tool, or even to reinstall Windows. The second situation that comes up is when you want to turn off something called fast boot. Now, fast boot can actually get in the way of things working properly, especially if you want to try running Linux. The third reason you might need to enter BIOS is when you want to ensure that your system memory is running at its rated speed so that you aren't giving up performance unnecessarily. Many computers don't do that automatically. Now today we're going to go into the BIOS on this mini ITX PC and we'll be looking at adjusting those 3 very items. And that's coming up right now. Now, before we get right into how we enter the BIOS, there's something important that you should know up front. Modern computers, they boot incredibly fast in many cases, sometimes in just a few seconds. Now, the traditional way to get into BIOS is to mash a particular key, usually delete or F2 or F12, right at the moment your computer starts up. And I'll be showing you that method in just a moment. But if your PC has fast boot or fast startup turned on, the window of time you have to get that key entry in is so short it can be virtually impossible to catch. So if you've tried the key mashing method to get into your BIOS and you've failed, you haven't been able to enter it, that's almost certainly why. Now, we do have a better way of entering BIOS that I'll be showing you on this video as well, so if you've had that issue, keep watching. Now, the easiest way to get into your BIOS is to smash the appropriate key the second you start turning on your computer. As mentioned, that may not always work if you've got fast boot turned on, but it is the best way to access your BIOS. You're going to ask me, Graham, what key do I use? Well, it does depend on your computer or motherboard manufacturer. For this one, this is an ASRock motherboard, I can use delete or F2, but it does change. I think HP prefers F10 or escape, Dell is F2, Lenovo is F2 or function plus F2, Acer and Asus F2 or delete. So the key can change. If you're uncertain, just check your owner's manual that came with your computer or your motherboard, or go online and do a search for how to enter BIOS with your computer make or your motherboard make and model. So my favorite way of going about this, some people, they like to hold the key. I like to pound the key because I find it super stress relieving. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to do that now. Let's turn this computer on. And as soon as I turn it on, I'm going to start tapping the key I need to get into my BIOS, which in this case is delete. Now what you're going to notice on this computer or this particular motherboard, on the splash screen that comes up, it actually very briefly shows you in the bottom right corner what key you need to enter BIOS. So if you're looking really carefully, your computer might have that as well, and it's super helpful. So here we go. I'm now on the main screen of the BIOS for this computer. We can get to work making some adjustments. Now, as I mentioned, if fast boot is turned on, this may not work because fast boot starts your computer so fast you won't be able to get that key entry in. So you're going to need to use method 2 instead, and we're going to discuss that right now. Now, the second way to enter BIOS in your computer, it does take a little longer, but it's a way that's absolutely reliable. It doesn't matter whether your fast startup is on or off, this way will always work. So if you're using Windows, you just go into your Windows desktop, you hit the Start button, and you go to the little icon that says Settings. Now, once you're in Settings, you're going to go to System on the left-hand side of the menu. Once you're in System, you're going to go down to where it says Recovery on the right-hand side. In Recovery, you'll go here where it says Advanced Startup and hit Restart Now and Restart Now. And what this is going to do, it's going to restart your computer, but on restart, it's going to give you some options. We're going to see that here in just a second. Okay, so there you go, it's restarted. And you can see it hasn't restarted to your typical Windows environment. It's restarted to this Choose an Option screen. So what we're going to do, we're going to select Troubleshoot, and then Advanced Options, and then we're going to go where it says UEFI Firmware Settings. UEFI Firmware, that is essentially your BIOS. So if we select that, it's automatically going to reboot your computer back to the BIOS. We just hit Restart, and here we go. And so there we are. After restarting, we're back into our BIOS. So like I say, that method, although it takes a little bit longer, requires a bit more clicking around, it will always work. Now you may be asking me, Graham, what if I'm not running Windows, I'm running Linux? Well, Linux is even easier because when you boot up to Linux, you know how you've got that grub start menu if you've got a dual boot? You've got an option right there to boot into your UEFI firmware. Now if you're not using a dual boot, you don't get that grub menu, you're booting straight up into Linux. You can access your UEFI firmware settings through a terminal command. Take a look at Google, that's a pretty common command that is widely available. I'll put that in the description of this video down below so that you have it there as well. Now just a quick heads up before we go into the BIOS on this computer. Keep in mind that every BIOS looks a little bit different depending on your computer or motherboard's manufacturer. Some look like just a plain text menu from the 1990s, and others have a really attractive graphical user interface. Now the specific settings may be in slightly different places in different BIOSes, but the names will be similar, so don't panic if yours isn't exactly the same as this one. The layout and the function of every BIOS screen is generally pretty similar, so if you take your time, you'll be able to figure out how to navigate yours. If in doubt, go back and check your owner's manual. Now once we get into the BIOS, you can typically navigate with the keyboard. You can use the arrow key, the escape key, and the enter key, or you can use your mouse in most cases. But keep in mind, don't change anything we haven't talked about in this video unless you're confident you know what that function does. So now that we're in our BIOS, let's take a look at those three settings that you may need to change. The first one is your boot order. Now most BIOSes, they either come up like this where it's just a single screen, or sometimes you have the option of a simplified version or an advanced version. For some of these settings, you may have to select the advanced version. So look for that in your BIOS if it gives you the option of seeing an advanced menu. This one doesn't, it's pretty straightforward. There's just one menu that comes up. So if I look across the top, and most BIOSes are organized like this, you see you've got the main, which is the page we're on, the OC tweaker, which is for overclocking. You've got the advanced section, tools, hardware monitor, security, and then boot. So if you're thinking we want to change our boot order, probably going to be under the boot menu. So let's go there. And as you can see, I'm navigating with the mouse. In the rare event your BIOS doesn't let you do that, usually it's the arrow keys, the tab button, the escape to move back, and the enter to enter a change. Now we're in the boot menu here, and what you can see is I have boot option priorities. When I fire up my computer, it looks at my devices and sees how many bootable devices there are on the system. Now I've got Windows installed on the computer, and I've got an external drive here that I have Linux installed on. So I actually have two bootable devices on this PC. And you can see that here in my boot manager. And I've got it ordered so that Windows Boot Manager is first, and Ubuntu, which is on my external drive, is second. What does that mean? Well, what it means is when I fire up my computer, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to go to the drive that has Windows on it and see if it can fire Windows. If it can, Windows is going to load. If for any reason there's a failure, there's an issue, it can't load Windows, it's going to go down to the second item, which is Ubuntu. So if the loading of Windows is unavailable for whatever reason, then it loads Ubuntu. Now, if I decide I don't want Windows to be my primary boot device, what I can do is simply click on Windows Boot Manager and change that to Ubuntu. So I'll click here, and if you noticed, now the order has changed. Ubuntu is the first boot option, and Windows Boot Manager has moved into second place. So now the functionality is exactly the opposite of what it was. When I turn on my computer, it'll look for Ubuntu first. If it's available, it'll load it up. If it's not, it will then load Windows. So that's exactly the way we want it. Now, while we're on this screen, you'll note there's another option here that we talked about, and that is the fast boot option. And you see fast boot listed right here. And typically, the ability to turn fast boot on and off is going to be really close to where you set your boot order. So you can see on this computer, fast boot is disabled. Now, if I click on that, I only have two options, disabled or ultra fast. Now, ASRock in the little warning here, it does warn you, or at least it used to. Yeah, if you look at the second half of this warning, it says, please note that ultra fast mode boots so fast that the only way to enter this UEFI setup utility is to clear CMOS or run the restart to UEFI utility in Windows, which is what we just did. So it actually warns you right there, hey, if you choose to have ultra fast boot on, you're not going to be able to do anything before Windows starts. You're always going to be going into Windows. Those function keys to get into UEFI or to bring up your boot options menu, they're not going to work. So you may be saying, well, why would I ever have fast boot on? Well, here's how I use it. I've got a bunch of computers that I horse around with. I install Linux, I uninstall Linux, I put in Windows. A machine that you're fiddling with, leave it off. Because you're going to need to access your UEFI menu, you're going to need to access your boot menu. It's better not to have your fast boot or ultra fast boot turned on. However, on something like my office computer, where all my work is, my employer's information is, I don't fool around with that computer too much. I like to leave it the way it is. So on that computer, I have ultra fast boot turned on, because what it does, it just shaves a few seconds off the boot up time. I don't ever need to access the UEFI menu. I don't ever need to access the boot options menu, because that's a stable computer that I don't make changes to. So it does save time on the startup. It is a handy little function to have, but if it's a computer you're horsing around with and experimenting with, I would keep it turned off. So we're not going to turn it off. We're not going to leave it on. We're going to make it disabled so we don't have fast boot happening on this computer. Okay, now the third setting that we said you'd sometimes want to change in your BIOS is with your RAM speed. And you may be saying, well, Graham, why would I change my RAM speed? That sounds weird. Well, the way RAM is manufactured is that RAM has two different speeds. There is the base or default frequency, and then there's what the manufacturer has certified it for. So it's two different things. And you may say, well, why don't they just run on the one? Well, the default speed ensures that you can put RAM in just about any machine that takes that type of RAM, whether it's DDR3, DDR4, DDR5, and running on that slower default speed ensures that the computer will start up. You won't have any conflicts. Because sometimes with higher RAM speeds, you can have some conflicts, so they don't ship it that way. They ship it at the default speed, and then you have to enter your BIOS to access the higher speeds that that RAM is manufactured for. So let's go see how we do that. So on this BIOS, we go to OC Tweaker, which is Overclock Tweaker. And you can hear it says, you see it says Load XMP Settings. So XMP is what Intel calls the adjusting of your RAM frequency and voltage. Now it does go by other names. On some AMD computers it's called AMD Expo, sometimes it's called DOCP. This is an AMD machine, but they still call it XMP, which is the most familiar one. So when you look, you can see that my RAM frequency is running at 2,666 megahertz. And I've got it set to auto on the XMP setting. So I'm saying, hey, just run whatever, which means the computer is falling back on that default 2666 speed. So if I click on the auto button, what you see comes up is an XMP2 profile. And it says it's DDR4 running at 3000 megahertz, 1.35 volts. Now sometimes when you click on this, you'll see two different profiles, an XMP1 and an XMP2. The one will be faster than the default speed, but lower than the second speed. So usually it's tiered. In this case, I've only got one XMP profile that's available to me. So I'm going to click on that. And what you're going to see is my RAM frequency, it says, is 2666 now, but it's going up to DDR4 3000, so I'm going to get a little boost in my speed. Now this is really important. It may not seem like much, but on modern CPUs, RAM speed has a huge impact on your performance. Running your RAM a little bit faster is really helpful in gaming to get extra FPS, and it's really helpful in any CPU-intensive task. It will speed up your computer. It is noticeable. Now, some people refer to this as overclocking, but you're not really overclocking, because what the XMP profile is it's built into the RAM, and the RAM manufacturer is certifying that, hey, look, you've got this motherboard, you've got this CPU, so for this memory that we have given you, we certify it can run at this speed. So all you're doing is you're telling your computer, I want to run it at the maximum speed that the RAM manufacturer has certified for this RAM that I've installed. Now, most people do this. A lot of computers actually come shipped. If you buy a pre-built from like Dell or Lenovo, it'll often come shipped with the XMP profile turned on already. Sometimes it doesn't. Every now and then, you'll select an XMP profile that doesn't work. I had that happen to me once. In all the years I've been horsing with computers, one time I took an XMP 2.0 profile and it didn't work. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't wreck your machine. If you've got an XMP profile that you select that your computer doesn't like, when you restart, you'll see it go through a bit of a restart cycle. It'll restart 2, 3, 4 times. And what it's doing is it's trying to adjust that RAM to make it work for your computer. If it can't make it work, when it eventually starts up, what you'll see is it's defaulted back to the original memory speed. So it's not a big deal if it doesn't work. It's not something that's going to wreck your computer. But with modern PCs, if you've got anything built in the last even 10 years that has XMP profiles on it, 99.99% of the time, you're going to turn that extra speed on. It's been certified by the RAM manufacturer. It's going to work just fine. So at this point, what we've done, we've changed our boot order so that Linux is booting first. We've turned off fast boot because we know that the Linux grub boot menu doesn't like fast boot. And we've changed our memory speed to get that last little bit of performance out of the memory. Now, these changes haven't taken effect yet. What we need to do is we need to go to Exit, and you see here we have some options. We have Save Changes and Exit or Discard Changes and Exit. Now, if you've done something in your BIOS you're not sure about, the easiest way to not have it affect your computer is hit Discard Changes and Exit, reboot your computer, come back into BIOS and try again. In this case, we know we want to keep the changes we've made, so I'm going to go Save Changes and Exit. And what we expect is that this thing is now going to restart, and it should restart into Linux. So let's see if that's what happens. And there you go. We've booted into the Linux grub menu. And one of the cool things about the grub menu is you can see there's a selection there for UEFI firmware settings right in the menu. So if I want to go back to my BIOS, I can just select that. Now, I've waited too long, so it has automatically selected to boot into Linux. So now you're going to see my machine is starting up into Linux Mint. And so that's really all there is to it. Look, I know BIOS can sound intimidating, but for the 3 things most people actually need to do, which is change their boot order, turn fast boot on or off, and make sure your RAM speed is set correctly, and of course getting in reliably in the first place, BIOS is actually pretty manageable. It's nothing to be scared of. Keep in mind though, if ever you perform an update to your BIOS, it typically does reset everything back to your default settings. So you have to go back in and redo your adjustments. But that's not something you're going to be doing very often. A lot of users never do. Now keep one last thing in mind. BIOS does have a lot of other settings in there. If you see something you don't recognize, it's best just to leave it alone. For the most part, the manufacturer of your computer or your motherboard, they did a pretty good job getting the default settings correct. You don't need to feel the need to go in and fiddle. Now the settings we've covered today are the ones you're likely to need. Everything else is best left for another day, maybe if you're going in looking for something specific you know you'd like to change. Now if this video has helped you out, a thumbs up goes a long way, and if you want more plain language tech help, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you so much for taking the time to watch and comment. I'm Graham Hughes. This is Tech Talk. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.